Hello, Steve White, Trek Boy 89 for Steve Arts 89. Well, I tried to get through all the Star Trek First Contact Day stuff, but I ended up having a migraine. So I lost my sight and had to lay down for a couple of hours. That was no fun. So I didn't get to the Janeway reveal because we actually had a Janeway reveal where they actually showed the CGI Janeway character for the new animated CGI show. God, what is it called? Star Trek Prodigy. That's it. I don't know why I forgot that. So yeah, it was interesting. It was weird seeing her as a CGI character. I'm kind of used to seeing cartoon characters, but to see a real person, an actress, a character that we're used to as a CGI character was kind of weird. But the thing that was a relief, because I could not in my head work out how they were going to have Janeway join in with this team of lawless teens stealing a starship. I'm like, how is this possible? I thought, or maybe she's chasing them, and you see her sort of talking to these people, and they're always sort of out of her reach or something. But they have a conversation, an ongoing conversation through subspace or something. I couldn't quite work out how they would have Janeway interacting with these lawless teens. And how are they doing it? She's a hologram. Basically, they find a ship that's derelict, that was abandoned or lost or damaged or something, and they take it over, and they discover that there is a training hologram, which is Catherine Janeway. So apparently they did a Captain Janeway hologram to train Starfleet officers and such. So that's interesting. That's at least viable. It makes sense. I'm not quite sure how they're going to deal with a hologram of a person. A hologram on itself, like the Doctor, is its own creation, its own personality, its own identity. It's got all its own memories and elements and things that make it eventually make him into a sentient sort of being or a character, or at least a character that seems like a real person. But a hologram of someone who's just there for training, that's not supposed to, the idea of the Doctor was he was supposed to have a bedside manner, so he would deal with people who are in, trauma and ill or whatever. That sort of made some sense. It'd be more personable, more like a person. But a training program, I'm not quite sure how they're going to make. Are they just going to have her just like Janeway and just a hologram? So they have a way of having Janeway in the show without actually having Janeway in the show, or will she be like a hologram? So that's sort of interesting, and I'm just relieved that they're not finding some way to make her complicit with a bunch of lawless teens stealing a starship. She's just a hologram, so that's okay. And they did a panel with her, and there was a bit of some jokes about her being too beautiful and having to alter it and little things. And she didn't talk much. She talked a little bit about just doing the voice again and just getting into the character, but it's not the character because it's a hologram, but it is the character because the hologram is based on the real person, blah, blah, blah. So it's interesting. So I'm just relieved that, and the other element that is a relief is, it's sort of the way they're describing the show, it does seem a little bit more Star Trek, because people are saying, how can it be Star Trek without human characters? How can you have Star Trek when it's basically not the human condition, the human experience, the human exploration? It's basically aliens. How do you relate to them? How do you aspire to them? And the idea with the show is that these are kids, aliens, who have no idea about Starfleet, and they're learning from finding this ship and interacting with, I guess, the computer and Janeway and the holograms and everything, and they're learning what Star Trek is. So, like Data and Spock and all these characters who aren't human, who are learning about humanity, these kids will be learning about humanity and learning about Starfleet, and I can see how that is a good way to exemplify what Star Trek is. And these characters are basically the audience who don't, a lot of the kids who we're watching won't know Star Trek. So there is some. It does seem a bit more, I don't want to say practical, but just when I first heard the premise, I thought, God, this is not going to, what is this? It's not going to work. And now I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, I can kind of see how they're going to make that work. I can kind of see how they're going to use the alien characters, explain what Starfleet is, explain basically what Star Trek is about humanity, have them learn, have this teaching tool. It does seem a bit more plausible, a bit more manageable. I feel like it's still getting a bit too far away from Star Trek and the format, but it's not as far away as what I thought, and it's not as bad as what I thought. So I'm feeling a bit more optimistic about Prodigy. Not so much about the second season of Picard or the fourth season of Discovery or anything, but I'm just a bit relieved. So I'm just going to leave it there. They didn't say much more. There was one other panel which is just about the production, where they talked to Neville Page, creature design, James McKinnon, who is makeup, and from the department head, and then the makeup. Why do I have that written down twice? Why do I bother writing notes? But basically, I just had the makeup guys and the creature design and costume design, Gersha Phillips. And I had them all basically just talking about the production, the effects, the makeup effects, and just the production sort of side of things. So they kind of covered, the actor side, the production side. They kind of tried to, sort of cover everything. I feel like it wasn't quite as good as Star Trek Day. They seemed to cover everything. This was a bit more lacking with representing all the different departments and the different elements of the show. But overall, it was a nice little surprise. I wasn't expecting this much for First Contact Day. I kind of thought when they did Star Trek Day, they were sort of done. That was kind of going to be it. But I guess we're going to have this be an annual thing, I guess. I'm assuming even if there isn't an active show in production or launching or something, they'll still do a Star Trek Day. Hopefully this is not just because we've got a production happening, let's just use First Contact Day, to actually promote the shows and then just forget about it later. So, I don't know. Yeah, I'm just waffling on at this point. I do feel a little bit relieved. But overall, I'm not feeling much more optimistic about Star Trek as a whole. But some elements I thought were going to be really bad aren't as bad as I thought. But yeah, I'm just going to go. I'm tired. I'm waffling on. But just let me know what you think. What other people think of the videos and where they're going with all these elements of the different Star Trek shows. I have obviously some big issues with some elements of it. Other elements don't bother me so much. I watched a few other interviews while I was doing stuff, and the absolute hate and vitriol for the show is a little bit blinding sometimes, because I have issues with the show being science fantasy and being dystopian and stuff. But some people who I won't mention just go on about the most ridiculous things and make such a drama and just hate so much for the sake of it, when there's some legitimate issues to go on about. They don't need to make up anything. They don't have to hate for the sake of it. I won't mention any names, but yeah, I'm just going to go back to what I was doing, and I'm just going to keep watching, see what comes out for the various productions as they go along, and hopefully, I still am hopeful that there will be an overall change and the shows will go towards more something that resembles Star Trek. I feel like they're kind of learning, but I'm not sure. I really don't know what's going to happen. I'm tired of being disappointed, but I kind of refuse to give up. I'm going to continue to be optimistic, but yeah, I'm going to go.